This is the anthem. Here's what you came for. This is the moment. Magic was made for. Come on, let's light up the sky now. You feel the magic happening right now.
Hello there. Welcome back to Fan Fatales.
Take a ride with us on the Hogwarts Express.
Walk down Main Street with our best super pals.
And defy gravity as we talk about all things fandom.
Hello and welcome back to Fan Fatales, a member of the Real Fans Podcast Network. I'm Emma and happy Women's History Month. This week, as we continue to celebrate, we are going to be talking to Katie Dodge, who is a wonderful chocolatier behind the Lady Tano Pop, which is now known as the Ahsoka Tano Pop.
Yep, it's just called the Ahsoka Tano Pop, or just the Ahsoka Pop.
Yes, which is at the Ganachery at Disney Springs in Orlando, Florida. So hi, Katie.
Hello.
I'm so happy to talk to you. I know I told you earlier, I was so excited when I first heard about this pop because I'm an Orlando girly myself and was just so excited to get this opportunity to talk to you about it.
I'm so glad you guys reached out. It's definitely been a really fun experience getting to do this. Getting to meet all the different Ahsoka fans has been just so awesome.
Yeah. And of course, I got it a couple times last year and I plan on getting it a couple times next week when I'm home for spring break.
Yes.
And I just love it so much. So thank you for making this nerdy thing. I love it so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're just going to do some general questions before we get into your career and the Ahsoka Pop and your Star Wars journey itself. So the first question is, what is your main fandom?
Star Wars.
That's what I figured you were going to say. When I wrote this question out, I was like, I wonder if it's going to be Star Wars.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what is your Hogwarts house if you have one?
I am a Hufflepuff.
Same. Oh my gosh. Gabby's a Slytherin, but I always love having my Hufflepuffs on because we're all great.
Right?
Yes. So who is your favorite Disney princess?
Ooh, I'm going to say Tiana.
Okay.
I am from the South, so I'm from South Carolina originally.
Okay.
And so seeing a strong female character who not only wants to be a chef, and I kind of have a lot of the same similarities in her story. I grew up and people were like, chef's a great dream. Maybe think of something a little bit easier. And I'm like, no, thanks. Good try though.
Yeah.
And so when I saw Tiana for the first time, I'm like, we're the same.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. That was my favorite because I was a book girly growing up. And, she was the brunette princess and brunette. So, are you a Sith or a Jedi? So going into Star Wars again.
Oh, I am more Jedi.
Okay. More light side, more Ahsoka Tano leaning, Obi-Wan, all them.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. So, heroes or villains?
I'm going to say heroes,
okay.
Which I know can be a little boring, but I love a good redemption and we thought we were going to fail, but we did it and we're so, it's good in the end.
I love it. I love that answer so much. I'm a heroes girly myself, actually, too. So I always love that question because some people are like, the anti-hero like Snape.
Yeah.
And throw me for a curveball. Or Kylo Ren, they usually lump in that too.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah. So who is your favorite Avenger?
Bucky Barnes.
That's Gabby's favorite Avenger.
I love Bucky.
She loves Bucky. I know she's gotten to see the actor at San Diego Comic-Con because she's from San Diego. And she has a great story. It's one of the first episodes we ever recorded. She tells that story. And I think it's titled that episode is titled based around that story.
I love it. I'd love to meet him. I love Sebastian Stan. He's such a cool actor.
Yeah, I love him too. He's great. And then are there any other fun facts you'd like to say?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Kind of very straightforward.
Okay. So, of course, I got to know you because of the Ahsoka Tano Pop, and that's when I first heard about you, especially after your talk with Ashley last year. But what first got you introduced into the Star Wars journey, or what is your journey through the Star Wars fandom?
So I had actually never seen a Star Wars movie up until COVID quarantine. It was
Wow.
so I was a Marvel person. I was
Okay.
Marvel through and through. I was like, I don't need to watch Star Wars. I have all the Marvel movies. Why would I
Yeah.
bother? And then May the 4th happened, and I was like, well, I got nothing else to do. Mind you, we're in quarantine, so I'm staying home. I was like,
Yeah.
I guess I'll watch Star Wars. And I watched them all within 2.5 days. Like all the movies
Wow.
from one to the end, all of
Yeah.
them. I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever watched in my life. Oh
That's
my gosh.
awesome.
And then I watched
Yeah.
The Mandalorian, and then I
Okay.
watched Clone Wars. And I immediately became obsessed. I was like, this is the greatest franchise I've ever seen. I love it so
Yeah.
much. I really clung on to Ahsoka, especially I was clung on to her and Captain Rex. Those were the two characters that really like
Ahsoka is one of my favorites. I have like 3 Ahsoka things within arm's reach right here.
I'm looking at my wall and I have like multiple Ahsoka things. I've got my Funkos are above me and I have
Yeah.
at least 3 or 4 Ahsokas up on my
I
wall.
have like the little Stitch Numio in the like
In the
Ahsoka shirt, and I met Ashley in my Ahsoka cosplay last year.
That's so cool.
Stuff like that is like on my desk. Just
Yeah. But no,
Yeah.
I definitely I clung to those characters, and especially during COVID because it was such a hard time and I was losing a lot of who I was as a person, I felt like. And then from there, my position at the Grand Flirty Bakery had not reopened, so Disney offered us jobs kind of anywhere, and they're like, we'll just throw you into whatever we have. And I was like, teach me anything, I'll learn anything. And so they put me in attractions at the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, that's awesome.
I just was like, I was truly thrown into this like obsession, and I tend to hyperfixate on things. So like my hyperfixation became Star Wars, and it just kind of grew from there. And I realized I missed being in a kitchen, and so that's when I went back to the Ganachery, but I just kind of kept that really deep love for Star Wars.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's now
awesome.
kind of spiraled into this.
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned the 2 Star Wars characters that you love and like that are most like you, but why do you think Ahsoka and Rex are?
So
Or why do you think you clung on to them rather?
So my first like experience where I looked at the both of them, I'm like, these two, I picked these two, was in the movie when Ahsoka and Rex, so Anakin is kind of like pawned Ahsoka off on Rex, and Rex is like, what do I do with her? Like, okay.
Yeah.
And so walking down, and Ahsoka's trying to give Rex like pointers, and he is kind of like, yeah, we've done that, like just kind of like trying to get her to like stop.
Yeah.
And she looks at him, and the lines roughly around the lines of, well, if I'm a Jedi and you're a clone captain, doesn't that mean I outrank you? And Rex turns to her, and it's my favorite line from Star Wars is, in my book, experience outranks everything.
I love that line.
That was kind of my and then she responds with, well, I guess I better go get some more experience. And instead of being like, well, I am a Jedi, you need to listen to me, she very much listened and talked to what he had to say. And I absolutely adored that. And I adored that moment between the two of them. And I loved Ahsoka's, kind of sassy attitude without being rude. And whereas I love Rex's, he's incredibly loyal. He cares about people in his life. And I was kind of going through this journey of my own self with, we watch Rex start to question kind of authority and like, what authority do I genuinely listen to? And just because someone says it's the right thing, is it genuinely the right thing? And I was kind of starting to go down my path myself of, well, this is what people in my life are telling me to do and what they're saying to do, but is it really the right thing to do?
Yeah.
And so I clung to Rex with that. I also absolutely love the clones. So I was just kind of like, that one, I picked that clone. He's mine.
Yeah, I love the clones.
They're so cool. I love them so much.
Yes.
And so that's kind of where I clung to both of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I also clung to Ahsoka. She's my favorite character in Star Wars. So anything Ahsoka I can get my hands on, I'm going to get my hands on. So I was really excited when I first heard about the pop. I remember because we do a fandom news segment on the show talking about it when it first got announced last year.
Yay!
So like I've gotten to like kind of watch your journey through this whole pop, and I'm just like so excited to get to talk to you now about your journey with Star Wars and everything.
It was such a pipe dream. The whole product was just a pipe dream.
Yeah.
That my chef was like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And so I thought for sure I was gonna bring this idea, and my chef's gonna be like, yeah, no, we're good. And I was gonna be like, okay.
Yeah.
So it's so much fun getting to hear people say how much they love it, because it is definitely something that is so close to my heart.
Yeah. So what is your kyber crystal color?
Purple. I'm actually wearing my kyber crystal now, actually.
Oh, I didn't even notice it. Oh my gosh, I love it.
That's my kyber crystal.
That's awesome. And then who is your favorite droid?
Chopper.
I love Chopper. I
I
have
love our
to
little
like
war
Disney
criminal.
Springs Chopper.
I love
Oh
him.
my gosh.
I love
Yeah.
Chop. He's so funny.
I do too. He's great. Our little war criminal.
A little war criminal.
Yeah. So, how did you start out your career as a chocolatier? I know you kind of hinted at it a little bit.
So I started my Disney career in general as a college
Yes.
program student. I worked
Okay.
3 months. I did a month and a half at Amorette and then a month and a half at the Ganachery.
Okay.
And so I kind of had that like dip in the feet then. And during college, I actually hated chocolate work. I was like, I never wanted to
Oh
do chocolate.
wow.
I do not enjoy this. I thought I was going to do classical French. And so I was really trying to lean more towards Amorettes. I then finished college and I went full time with Disney, working at Animal Kingdom Lodge. And then I transferred
Okay.
over to the Grand Floridian, was there up until COVID. Um, Worked at the Millennium Falcon, like I said. And I started realizing I really do like talking to people and I really like guests and I really like guest interactions. And I'm like, okay, well, I still really miss the kitchen though. They offered up another position to me over at Epcot Festival. And I was like, all right, I
Okay.
really do love the kitchen, but I really miss people. So I was like, you know what? Let's try going back to the ganachery. I was like,
Yeah.
I really still am not a fan of chocolates, but I've gotten better with my chocolate work over the years. I've done some chocolate sculpture pieces. Um,
Okay.
and so I was like, all right, let's go back. And so I did. And Chef Manda remembered me. So she pulled me pretty quickly over to the ganachery. And that's how I kind of got into that field. And
Oh
I've now been
wow.
this March will be 2 years.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So I definitely love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And you kind of talked about my next question, which was your career trajectory to the ganachery. But what was your major in college? Because you mentioned the college program.
I actually have a degree in baking and pastry. So I am
Okay.
the college program I did was specifically the baking and pastry culinary
Okay.
college program. So
Yes.
yeah, I went to school for that.
Awesome. That's awesome. I was just so interested because, I have a lot of college program friends growing up in Orlando, and most of them are, business majors or whatever. So I haven't heard the culinary side of that.
Yeah, so it's definitely different than like your typical college program student because like
Yeah.
I lived with people who were on the regular college program and they were like, yeah, they asked me like what my favorite princess was, what I would do if there was an angry, upset guest.
Yeah.
And my questions were like, okay, so you're gonna go to the market and buy me a seasonal fruit. What are you making me with that product? And it's like,
Oh,
oh, or like what's the difference between like pastry cream? Like how do you make a pastry cream? What's a creme
wow.
anglaise? And then I also had to do a written
Wow.
test.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was very, very difficult and intense. And I think I was one of, I think, 6 for the whole year in the pastry
Wow.
program, if I
That's
remember
awesome.
correctly. So it was definitely something that I was like, okay, that's fun.
Yeah. So what has been your favorite experience working at the ganachery?
Ooh, I definitely loved getting to obviously ever doing everything with the Ahsoka pop and getting to do
Yeah.
events with that. But outside of doing that, I actually got to do a event with Ashley Eckstein
Oh,
at one of our like meeting areas, and she did a s'mores event. So myself and one of my other coworkers
awesome.
went and made s'mores for her, and it was just so much fun because I literally got paid to make s'mores for like 5 hours. It was
Wow.
super cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was a really fun experience.
Yeah. And then I'm sure you have a favorite chocolate at the ganachery. What's your favorite flavor if you had to choose?
My favorite is the gianduja. So it's Italian
Okay.
hazelnut, very similar to like Nutella, but it's
Yeah.
what Nutella wishes it was.
Okay. I think I've tried it and I really liked that one.
That one's
I always
so
get like a
good.
little bag before coming back up to school.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, of course. I have to. So the main reason why is, of course, the Ahsoka Pop is the whole thing I wanted to talk to you about. So, for those of you who do not know, in 2022, for Celebrate Her Story at Walt Disney World, which is their Women's History Month celebration, you helped create the concept of the Lady Tano or the Ahsoka Pop. How did you come up with the idea of the treat, and like what was that whole process?
So the process started out actually with me originally. I was sitting in my, so our chef came to us and was like, hey, these holidays are coming up, these events are coming up, start thinking about ideas.
Okay.
And she's like, Valentine's Day, Easter, Women's History Month, just come up with something, figure it out. We'll figure it out from there. And I immediately clung to the idea of doing something for Women's History Month. So I was like, all right, well, what can we do? What characters can we do? And I was like, I really don't want to do a princess. Every time
Yeah.
there's something with Women's History Month, it's always the princesses. And I'm like, I really wanted something with Star Wars. And so I was like, maybe I'll do something with Leia or Padme. And I was like,
Yeah.
I like the two characters. I'm just not sold on it. And so I was like, I'll think about it. And so I was actually watching the Clone Wars. I was watching the Umbara arc, and I was
Oh wow.
making a hat. So I have a Captain Rex hat that I wear pretty regularly. And I was making it, and I was like, it'd be really cool if we did something for Ahsoka. And I was like, actually, that's a really great idea. And so I stopped what I was doing, and I have my notebook on my bedside table, and I started sketching it out. And I knew I
Wow.
obviously wanted to do the fulcrum symbol on it. And I was like, I really want to do something with her mantles because she has that really beautiful, striking
Yeah.
white and blue patterns on her mantles. And I was like, well, what if we like swirled the ganache on the inside?
Yeah.
And again, when I brought this idea to my chef, I was like, she is going to deny this so fast because I'm the only Star Wars fan in the shop. So everyone,
wow.
I'm like, people have seen it. They know like the base of the
Yeah.
characters, but I'm like, I had to give a history lesson on who Ahsoka was.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I had to give a history lesson before even the pop came out of who Ahsoka is, why we take these colors, why we did this, why we did that. And so we did that. And then the idea of doing it plant-based, Ashley Eckstein actually does not eat dairy. Or she tries to kind of minimalize in her diet. And so we were like, we wanted something that she can actually enjoy and have. But at the same time, also something that was really cool because we have never done a plant-based item in the shop.
That's awesome.
Never had one. So this was the first one we had ever done. And it was definitely a challenge to try and take our recipes and turn them plant-based because ganache is the mixture of, heavy cream and chocolate.
Yeah.
So getting to do that was definitely a challenge all in itself. And then swirling two different flavors into one was like crazy.
Yeah.
And from there, we just kind of kept playing around with it. And as we were submitting it to Lucasfilms, they're like, this is too blue. This isn't blue enough. This is the wrong swirl pattern. This is the right swirl pattern. The orange is too orange. It's not orange enough. Now it's too red. And it was like, this is never going to work. And we didn't get our final approval until like 2 days before it was like about to be sold.
Wow.
And literally like 2 days before, we're like, yeah, that's fine. You can sell that. And we're like, good, because we've got like 4 pans of them ready to go. Because what's happening?
Jeez.
And
I didn't even think about like the colors.
We had to get so we had been working on it since October of 2021.
Wow.
So I pitched it before I went out of town. I got back into town and then we just started going on. So November, December, January, February, up until like literally I think February like 28th. We were like waiting on approvals.
Wow.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
And it got approved, and then Chef Amanda and I kind of had the idea of, well, what if we did an event with Ashley? Like, she obviously, loves this idea because we had talked to her about it before.
Yeah.
What if we did an event with her? And then we kind of got into event planning, which Chef Amanda and I have never done before. And Chef's like, well, I now know who to go to for things.
Yeah.
And it kind of went from there.
Wow. So what was Ashley's, like, do you remember how she reacted when you first told her about the idea of this whole pop?
So they emailed her and she was like, this is a great idea. I love it. And before we had come out with it, I actually got to meet her in person beforehand on Batu. And so I was like, I'm going to tell her, because mind you, she's had like a general idea of who I am. She's seen like photos of it. But her and I had never met. I had never actually spoken to her. My chef had spoken to her.
Wow.
And so we're on Batu and I was like, hi, my name's Katie. And like, I'm trying to take a photo with her and like not cry because I'm like freaking out. It's actually fine. And I went, you know my chef. And she goes, I do? Who's your chef? And I went, Chef Amanda. And she goes, oh, you work at the Ganachery. She goes, oh my God, you work at the Ganachery. And I was like, yeah. She goes, did you? Are you? And I was like, yeah, that's me. And she's like, oh my God. And she's
that's
like,
awesome.
It was such a moment. And I'm like, Ashley Eckstein fangirling over who I am. And I'm like over here trying not to cry. And I'm like, yeah.
That's awesome.
And she was just so over the moon excited about it. She's like, I can't wait for it to come out. This is such a cool idea. I'm so excited to try it. And I'm just like,
so did she not get to try it until
it came out?
It had come out? Wow. That's awesome.
So you actually see there's a video on her Instagram of her trying it. And that was the first time she'd ever actually tried it.
Wow.
And in the video, you're watching her like bite into it for the first time. What you don't see is my chef and I behind the like scenes of her taking this video, just like, oh my gosh, if she doesn't like this, I'm going to cry. Like, oh, please.
Oh, jeez.
And she takes a bite. She goes, oh my gosh, this is so good. And Chef Amanda and I are like, oh, okay, we're fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's the first time she ever had tried it. And it was like, this is so cool.
Yeah. So you kind of talked about like what made you choose the character of Ahsoka Tano to inspire the treat and like why her over any other Star Wars woman. But like, well, yeah, like I don't even know how to word this. I guess, yeah, like what drew you to having this strong female Jedi rather than another queen or a princess in Padme and Leia?
I feel like, again, when you think of Star Wars and you think of strong females, most people's mind immediately goes to Padme and immediately goes to Leia. And
Yeah.
I do love the two of those characters, but again, because I just connected so much with Ahsoka personally, it felt more right for me to do Ahsoka
Yeah.
over anybody else. And she, again, is a character that I relate to so heavily that I wanted to make a product that I not only felt passionate about, but I was passionate to talk to other people about. Because when
Yeah.
guests come in and they talk to us, like, why, the same question, why Ahsoka? Well, she's someone I love. She's somebody I care. It's a
Yeah.
character I care so much about that I could talk to you about for hours about Ahsoka and her time during the Jedi Order and after the Jedi Order. And it was like, I wanted a character I could genuinely talk about and not just
Yeah.
another person.
Yeah.
That's not to say I don't love Padme and Leia. I do, but it was like,
Yeah.
it made more sense for me as a person.
Yeah. And I know that you guys have done the Millennium Falcon pop.
Yep.
What was the whole process with that? I know we're here to talk about the Ahsoka pop, but it's another Star Wars pop that you guys have created.
That was an item that came before my time even. That was a thing that
Okay.
came before me. And from my understanding, it was an item they came out with for May the 4th, and people loved it. And they're like, well, can we keep it as a menu item? And they're like, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah.
And it just kind of stayed a permanent menu item.
Wow.
And actually, my first day working at the Ganachery as full time, they were like, "Oh, we're going to teach you how to make the Millennium Falcon pop," and I was like, "Really?" And they're like, "Oh, I forgot you're a Star Wars nerd." I'm like, "Yeah, I am."
That's awesome. Yeah. So you have mentioned that it's plant-based, but specifically the flavors are coconut and blueberry swirl.
Yes.
What made you choose specifically those flavors?
So obviously, I wanted the blue and the white for mantles. I did a lot of deep dive into the Togrutan diet and where the Togrutan people come from. So they're actually from the planet of Sheely. I'm a mega nerd. So I knew there was a good chance the blueberry would have been, if that was an item on their planet, would have been something they would have eaten because the planet of Sheely is a lot of mountainous valleys, and a lot of mountainous range and forest range. So blueberries and berries in general would have been something that they would have consumed because they are also an omnivoric society.
Okay.
Again, I went like really deep diving into this. And originally I did not want to do coconut because I was like, she wouldn't have had on Sheely. But then I had the realization that Ahsoka was pulled into the Jedi Order when she was 3 by Plo Koon, another Jedi I absolutely adore.
Same.
I love Plo Koon. Oh my gosh. That's a whole other conversation.
Same. Yeah.
I could run for hours about Plo.
Oh yeah, same.
But so I was
my Jedi character OC, her master is Plo Koon. Like that is how much I love.
Plo Koon was another character that I kind of adopted into my own like personal love, and I love the wolf pack. Like I'm gonna end up getting Wolf's helmet on my shoulder here.
That's awesome.
I'm doing Commander Wolf's helmet with a flower crown on him because I just think it was so cute of an idea because he's all grumpy and angry. Just be like, here you go, have a flower crown, love you.
That's awesome.
But so the idea with the coconut was like, all right, I can kind of play with this because with Coruscant being kind of the head of the empire of the Republic, so many trade routes would have came in and out of there. So there's a good chance that she either had it on Coruscant or during her travels as a Jedi or a Padawan, kind of going across the galaxy with Anakin. So I'm like, all right, I can kind of be okay with coconut, and it still gives us that nice white color.
Yeah.
And it's easy to make plant-based as well because it's mostly just coconut puree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Didn't even think about that. Like,
yeah, from the culinary side of it, blueberry and coconut was a great option because it holds really well and you can use it. It's a really easy puree to get your hands on. Coconut puree and blueberry puree are very easy to get your hands on.
Yeah. And it was easy to make it plant-based.
Yeah.
The blueberry and everything.
So our coconut recipe in the shop has very little dairy already in it.
Okay.
Switching it over to the plant-based was really easy. And I'm like, well, what if we just took the coconut puree out and just put blueberry puree in its place? It still makes plant-based. It works out great. And we've tested it and it came out really solid and it had a great flavor to it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to think if I have any other like questions pop up in my head as I'm talking with you. So you mentioned that you started as a Marvel fan. If you could choose a female Marvel superhero to do a pop for, what character would you choose?
Probably Kate Bishop.
I love Kate Bishop.
I had never seen Hawkeye until my roommate was like, we have to watch Hawkeye. And I was like, okay, we'll watch it.
Yeah.
And I loved Kate's, she's reckless, but she still cares. She wants to see the good in people. And even though things are not great around her, she's still trying to see the best in everyone involved.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of like Ahsoka.
Yeah, very much so. I can definitely see a lot of Ahsoka and Kate as well. So it was definitely, I probably her the most. Her, Yelena. I love Yelena.
Yeah, I love Yelena. I just thought of that because I was like, oh, you said you were a Marvel fan.
Yep. I was so my brother. I got my first comic book when I was 16. My brother, he took me to the comic book store and was like, I'm gonna let you buy whatever you want. And I bought the first couple episodes of Thor, and I liked it.
Okay.
And then he's like, well, why don't we watch the movies? And so we started watching the movies, and I just downhill slope became obsessed. And I actually remember watching Civil War. I was living in Berlin at the time when Civil War came out. And I made my friends go with me opening night in Berlin to go see Civil War.
That's awesome.
Technically seeing this before anyone in the States are because it hadn't come out in the States yet.
Wow.
Because the time zone changed and everything.
Yeah.
And we're like, this is so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, because I started off as a Star Wars fan and then grew into Marvel. And
it was definitely an interesting transition to go from Star Wars into or from Marvel into Star Wars. Because and as well as I had so vehemently be like, I don't need Star Wars. I don't want to watch Star Wars. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
That's how I was until freshman year of high school for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's right around when Rebels came out. So Rebels was kind of my introduction to Star Wars, not even the movies. Because I randomly kept it on at my grandparents' house because they're like, oh, look, it's Star Wars, whatever.
It's a cartoon, sure. Watch that, kid.
Yeah. And I remember watching the season 1 finale when Ahsoka walks down that staircase or the ladder. Being like, who is she? So then I went back and researched because everyone was freaking out because Ahsoka Tano is back and Ashley is now able to speak about how Ahsoka lives and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let me go and watch Clone Wars now. So then I watched Clone Wars and then I was like, I should probably just watch the movies. And Ahsoka was my introduction to Star Wars. So she is my favorite character and a big deal for me. So again, I was just so excited with this pop.
It definitely was something that I'm so glad I have gotten to be a part of doing. And it's something that I'm so excited to be able to be part of Team Tano and now kind of have my own stamp in Ahsoka history now. People know me now as this, and it's it's so exciting. And I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
It's funny you brought up Rebels. My brother and I are getting tattoos together that it's Ahsoka and Rex meeting for the first time. So I can't remember the exact quote. We're gonna have to figure it out. Rex looks at Ahsoka and something along the lines of you grew up or you got older or something like that. And she responds with, it had to happen at some point or one of us had to.
Yeah.
And that's definitely how my brother and I, he looked at me one day, he's like, you got older. And I'm like, well, yeah, I grew up.
Yeah.
And so him and I had talked about I was going to get Ahsoka's and he's going to get Rex.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love Ahsoka and Rex's relationship.
They're such a cool, brother-sister duo. And I love them.
Yeah.
I love them bits and pieces. And the season finale of Clone Wars, the whole finale.
Yeah, the series finale.
Yeah, the series finale. I was like, this is so especially her taking his helmet off and he's crying and she's like, you're a good soldier. I'm like, stop, just don't do this. No.
I cried a lot.
I sobbed uncontrollably. And then watching her knowing that her and Rex had to go and bury all of his brothers, and leave those helmets up, it is such a hard thing to realize. And you have to think that he had to go and find all of his own brothers as well, and she had to go find the men that she basically grew up with. These are her brothers in a way as
Yeah.
well. And it was just such a hard like episode to watch.
Yeah. I've shed many a tear about Ahsoka Tano.
I can understand that. I love it.
Oh,
But
yeah. I noticed your tattoo, like when you reach your arm,
Oh,
the
this one?
Ahsoka. Yeah, the fulcrum
Yeah.
symbol.
yeah, so I had the fulcrum and the J guys. I got it
Yes.
shortly after we finished the Ahsoka pop. I had done so I hand painted all the Ahsoka pops.
Yeah.
As of right now, I hand paint all of them. I had painted over 1,000 Ahsoka pops, and I was like, it makes sense at this point to get the fulcrum symbol.
Yeah.
And I actually seen someone do the fulcrum symbol with the J guys, and I'm like, I can't do something for Ahsoka and not do something for Rex. So I was like, all right, let's do this one. So I have the fulcrum symbol now, and I have my J guys. As well, I have a little. I don't know if you can see him as easy. My little over there.
Yeah, I love that. That's
He's got a whole backstory now. I love him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, any other like fun facts you'd like to say, or do you have any handles you want to promote or anything?
My Instagram is it's a long one. Sorry, y'all. It's baking for the happiest place on earth. So it's the number 4.
And it will be linked in the description for this episode.
Oh, fabulous. Wonderful. I don't know if you want to edit this part out, but I will announce it soon enough on my Instagram. I'm actually leaving the Ganachery very soon.
Oh, wow.
I got promoted.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm still going to be in the Springs. I'll be over at Amorette. I'm going to be a chef assistant over there. So I will still be in the Springs, but I will not be at the Ganachery much longer.
Okay.
My first day there is March 19th. I'm very excited.
Okay. When will you announce it? Because that'll determine if we cut it out or not.
I'm hoping within the next few days.
Because this episode will come out a week from today.
On the 15th?
Yeah.
I'll probably announce it by then because I start so my last day is on the 18th.
Yeah.
So I may announce it same day, most likely.
Okay.
I'm trying to give the Ahsoka pop its time. Like this is what I want people to focus on when they think of me right now.
Yeah.
Is the Ahsoka pop, because it is something that we've worked so hard on and something that I've spent so many hours working on. So I wanted to kind of give it its time, and it's like, look, it's still here. Love it, please. Before I love
it. I can't wait to have it again. My boyfriend and I are going to Disney Springs on Tuesday of next week, and then I'll be there again on Thursday.
Awesome. I won't be there.
I know. Yes.
So definitely make sure you get a good one. Let me know.
I will.
But I'll probably
and he didn't try it last year.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm dragging him over to the Ganachery before our reservation at House of Blues.
Yum.
So, yeah.
So good.
Yeah. And he and I, like, our whole relationship started because of Ahsoka. So this is like
really
kind of a huge thing. Yeah. He's a huge Star Wars nerd, and his lock screen when I first met him was something Clone Wars related. I was like, oh, I like Clone Wars. Ahsoka's my favorite character. And Rex was one of his. Anakin is his favorite. So like that was immediate whatever.
Yeah.
We our official like anniversary date is May 6th, and we started dating 2 days after the season 7 premiere.
Oh.
Like we were watching it together, and he asked me to be his girlfriend.
Oh, that's cute.
So like we've told Ashley this story now.
Yeah.
Like, Ahsoka is just like a huge deal, not only for me growing up, but with my relationship. So this is an awesome pop to kind of have us share together and everything.
Yeah, that's so
for him
cute.
to try it.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you.
That's so cute. Holy baloney.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Again, I loved having this conversation with you. It was amazing. I hope I get to see you on Thursday at some point, because I'll be there all day.
Like I said, I clock in at 9 a.m. so I will be there.
Yes. That's probably what I'm going to get, so I can get a seat.
Yeah, I definitely get there early. If it was anything like last year's event, I
got a seat last year. I was near the back.
We were really nervous because we started at we know people were going to start being let in at 9, and it was like 9:05 and nobody had showed up, and we were like, what if this flopped? What if we flop? And out of like 9:07, we just see hordes of people running to us, and I'm like, And
And their Ahsoka full
like full Ahsoka
outfits.
gear. Like it was, and we were giving out wristbands because Ashley was giving out some of the books. And then
Yeah.
after, it was like the first like 50 people. And after that, I had made the little Tano pops.
Yeah.
Or
I
had
got one of those.
Yeah, so I handwrit Tano on those as well. Like I hand painted the word Tano on all of those by myself. It was one of those things that we're like, we should do that. And I was like, I'm painting over like 100 of them. And I'm like, look at my chef and I was like, I don't ever want to write this word ever again. She's like,
So I'm gonna guess that's not happening again.
not the mini Tanos, no.
Okay.
This event that she's having, I'm actually not part of it all. We didn't.
Oh wow.
I learned when everyone else learned.
Okay, I didn't know if you were a part of it or not.
I am not.
Oh wow.
I even texted so Chef Amanda is no longer at the Ganachery. We have a new chef.
Yeah.
I texted Chef Amanda and I was like, do we know anything about this? And she's like, yeah, I think it's to do with her new collection.
I think
The
so.
universe or something like that, or
Yeah.
Star Wars universe. So I think it has to deal with more with that collection, which
Okay.
is more than a
Totally
cool.
fine. Yeah.
Hopefully she'll be like, and there's Ahsoka pops at the Ganachery, and people can come over and
I
like.
know her. She will.
I hope so. It's definitely something that I was like, we need to make sure we're well prepped.
Yeah.
So
Especially if it's anything like last year. I remember like you guys sold out and were
Out.
making more.
So when the event happened, I was talking to some of the guests who were there and like chit-chatting and everything. And my chef assistant, her name is Kate, comes over. She goes, hey, Katie, I'm so sorry to bother you. We need you in the shop. And I was like, okay. We have a line down our door. And I'm like, what is happening? And she goes, we're about to sell out. So
Yeah.
I'm literally painting them. And somebody comes in and she goes, oh, I want to buy 20 of them. And I was like, I don't have 20. I was like, can you come back in like 3 hours? And she's like, yeah, totally. So I was quite literally painting them to put in the fridge, to cool, to wrap and immediately sell it to this woman.
Wow.
And we probably would have sold more than 1,000 if I had kept up. But there's
Wow.
only so much
That's
I can do.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
thank you again for coming on. I hope to see you next Thursday, a day after this episode
Absolutely.
releases, and
I
my
am so
Ahsoka gear for
excited.
sure.
Heck yeah. I will probably have something on that will be Ahsoka related, if nothing
Of
else.
course.
They can all get over it.
Well, again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. This was so much fun.
Yeah, if you'd like to come on at any point, just give us a day, honestly.
Honestly, message me. I'm always down for it. Let's go.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye.
Leah Salonga joins the Broadway production team of Here Lies Love and the cast for a special guest engagement this summer. Joel Blackman, Tom Hewitt, and Lilias White have extended their runs in Hadestown. It was announced that beginning in October of 2023, just 2 Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser voyages will be offered per week. Disney says that they are using what they've learned after 1 year of operation to adjust according to guest needs. Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera will open for the first time in Italy this summer, with Ramin Karimloo in the title role. David Brain, Stephanie Sue, and more will perform at the 2023 Academy Awards. Funko is throwing away $35 million worth of pop toys, with the move being made to help with tax write-downs. John Berthnall's Punisher returning in Daredevil Born Again, with the series beginning filming this month. The Kennedy Center has announced Alex Brightman, James Monroe Iglehort, Leslie Kritzer, and Rob McClure to star in their production of Spamalot. Casey Likes will star in the Broadway transfer of Back to the Future as Marty McFly. Funny Girl has set its final performance for September, with Lea Michele extending her contract to close the show. Universal Orlando Resort and Universal Studios Hollywood have debuted a new dairy-free butterbeer topping. Olivia Holt will make her Broadway debut in Chicago next month as Roxy Hart. Ashley Park, who is the original Gretchen on Broadway, will be making a cameo appearance in the Mean Girls movie musical. Drew Galick will join Little Shop of Horrors on Off-Broadway as the dentist later this month. Three Sisters, starring Oscar Isaac and Greta Gerwig, indefinitely postponed at the New York Theater Workshop. Disney has announced an opening date for the villas at Disneyland Hotel. Starting from September 28th of 2023, the new villas will be available for guests to stay in. Bruce Vaughn returns to Disney as Chief Creative Officer and head of the Imagineering Department on March 20th. He left the Walt Disney Company in 2016 when former Disney CEO Bob Chapek didn't want a creative at the head of the department. A brand new immersive musical production of The Lord of the Rings, based on the classic trilogy by J.R.R. Tolkien, is coming to the Watermill Theatre in London this summer. Coming soon to a grocery store near you, Dole Whip, this fan favorite Disney Parks treat, will be available in freezer aisles nationwide. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Fan Fatales. We are a proud part of the Rail Fans Podcast Network. And if you want to check out more shows on the network, you can find them at rf4rm.com. Next week, we will be talking about the real women who inspired the Broadway musicals Six, Gypsy, and Chicago. Remember to subscribe to us on YouTube wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe to us on YouTube. Please leave us a review and comment down below to tell us what you think of the show. And remember to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at FanFatalesPod for the latest updates. And you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, which are all going to be at Snippy Emma, which is SNIPPYEMMA. And Gabby can be found at Gabby Gent pretty much everywhere, which is JABYGENT. Our editing is by the wonderful Carol Linsmeyer. And as always, thanks for tuning in. Bye! The views expressed in this episode do not reflect the brand or company they are about.